and welcome to Shedding Starlight, a guide to the Kingdom Hearts mythos. This week we'll be talking about Kairi within Sora's heart, because this situation leads to various events that will teach us more about hearts, how they work, and how they'll play in the series' future.
In the beginning of Kingdom Hearts, when Destiny Islands is falling to darkness, Sora enters the cave called the Secret Place. There, he sees Kairi right before she's blasted towards him. Her body disappears just before slamming into him, and her heart takes refuge within his. Because of this, Sora sees glimpses of Kairi throughout the game. In Traverse Town, after Sora faints from fighting Leon, he wakes up and sees Yuffie as Kairi before coming to his senses. Then, later, in the abandoned house that would end up becoming Merlin's home, Sora sees Kairi again, and she reminisces about scribbling in Destiny Island's cave. Sora even sees glimpses of her when meeting Tarzan for the first time. None of this is due to Sora simply missing her. Rather, it all happens as an effect of Kairi's heart within Sora. And even besides all these brief sightings, there are still other times when Kairi's heart acts up within Sora.
The first we'll discuss is again in Tarzan's world, Deep Jungle, after we collect slides for the camp's projector. Most of the slides we collect come directly from the Tarzan movie, except for the very first slide, which is a castle that's deliberately different from the one shown in the movie. This castle is implied to be Hollow Bastion before it was overtaken by the Heartless, since they have very similar towers and Sora thinks it's familiar. Somehow, Kairi, from within Sora's heart, was able to recognize her home even with the amnesia she's had these last few years. This teaches us two things. One, that in Kingdom Hearts, even when characters forget, memories are still there subconsciously. Two, that memories of one person can manifest in another given certain conditions. Now, as to how a photograph of Hollow Bastion made it to Tarzan's world in the first place, there's no explanation.
Another interesting event is at Neverland, when Sora is near Kairi's body. We discover that after her body disappeared at Destiny Islands, it somehow reappeared elsewhere, and the Disney villains were able to recover it. Only now, Kairi's heart isn't in her body anymore, leaving it limp and lifeless. Wendy, who was kept in the same room, says about Kairi,
"But she seems to be asleep. She hasn't budged an inch."
This is until Sora reaches out for Kairi. Her body reacts to her own heart within Sora and flinches. This teaches us that even when they're separated, hearts and their corresponding bodies still maintain a connection.
The last event we want to talk about is definitely the most impactful. After you finish Neverland back in Traverse Town, Sora is in low spirits. Donald and Goofy try to comfort him, saying he's got to believe in himself. Sora then hears Kairi's voice say,
"I believe in you."
And he gets a vision. In the beginning, he's gliding through this weird starfield of light. Then, he's floating inside Hollow Bastion's library and sees Kairi and her grandmother. This is when her grandmother tells her the legend of Kingdom Hearts. Sora is somehow experiencing a memory Kairi had, and in this memory, Kairi's grandmother tells her to believe in the light. So one could interpret this vision as Kairi trying to comfort Sora with an important lesson she learned as a child. This scene, often overlooked, is certainly a seed for the future in showing how hearts can connect with one another.
After Hollow Bastion's events, where Kairi regains her heart and Sora is restored from being a Heartless, the two are recuperating at Traverse Town. They both refer back to this memory, so Kairi seems to have recovered her memory of her childhood with her grandmother. But unfortunately, we don't yet know if she remembers everything, including Ansem sending her off into space. So, in short, Kairi's heart entering Sora at the beginning of the game influences a lot of later events that are short and often easy to forget.
But all of these times that Sora and Kairi's hearts interact are important groundwork for understanding the connections between hearts that occur throughout the series. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shedding Starlight discussion section. Today, we're talking about Miss Kairi, our favorite girl, our favorite. Hello, Miss Kairi. Hello, Mel, who I'm sitting here with. Hello, Mel. How are you?
Hello, Hannah. Hello, Kairi.
So we just spent about 5 minutes talking about Kairi and why she is incredibly important in this story, and kind of how she pops up in more ways in the story than one could really see the first time playing through the game. And we have some stuff to talk about. Pretty much everything is pretty straightforward in this episode, but we do still have some questions from people, and we do still have some things to kind of ponder over. The first thing we wanted to talk about was the Hollow Bastion photo in Deep Jungle. We're just so both fascinated by how that ended up there. I wanted to say on this point that recently I've been playing through Kingdom Hearts again for the podcast, and I just think, like, what a cool little detail. And it's so small because it's not even voice acted. It's just it's a dialogue box.
Yeah, if you were like me, so I spent many of my years, I spent so many years not even playing the Kingdom Hearts games, but just watching all the cutscenes on YouTube in like little compilations. And I'm sure that short fucking little Deep Jungle thing is always, well, maybe not now, because I think fans are much more careful. But I think back in like 2008, they would have cut that cutscene out. Like, they wouldn't have fucking cared.
Yeah.
So for some people, it might be easy to miss, especially if you're just like pressing X trying to skip all the shit. You don't fucking care, you know. You might skip that and not realize that it's more important than you think.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's just kind of surreal seeing this Hollow Bastion castle with all of the other pictures are just like normal things.
I know. It's like a guy proposing with flowers and then like a super ominous fucking
and Jane is over in the corner being like, where the fuck did that come from?
One thing I love about this very short scene is that, to me, one thing I love about Kingdom Hearts, especially Kingdom Hearts 1, is how it captures like the feeling of deja vu, where you're just like, okay, wait, I've been here before. Like, I remember everything. And like, for me, that eventually goes away, where I'm like, no, I take that back. I've never seen this before. Like, I don't know what happened. There was a blip in the universe or something. But I feel like Kingdom Hearts is like just so good at like capturing that feeling and asking yourself, like, what if it wasn't just a blip in your brain with the chemical releases? Like, what if that meant something? Like, I love that.
Yeah, it's so masterfully crafted in that way. It's just like, again, pulling back on, like, no string left untugged on in this fucking game, in this fucking series. It's crazy. But to that point, my mind always wants to make an explanation for things, which, like, is not just a me thing. It's a human condition on how we want to just, like, make stories in our head on how things happen and everything. But like, I considered trying to speculate on why a photograph of Hollow Bastion would make it to Tarzan's world in the first place. But I just kind of don't think it's worth speculating on, because I don't think there's an answer. That's what we said in the script. There is no explanation. But yeah, my fan fiction brain is like, but what if this happened, and what if this happened, and what if it was actually this, and what if the rules were different, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, you could even, like, imagine that, like, if Ansem was able to visit all these different worlds as a heart, did he have like a photo of Halabashan with him, and then he visited Deep Jungle and like left the photograph on accident or something?
Yeah.
You could just make up a bunch of shit, but
Yeah.
it don't matter, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, it don't fucking matter. Yeah, so just kind of a weird phenomena happening in Deep Jungle that illustrates Kairi's influence on Sora in this moment, which is cool. Mm-hmm. So, kind of moving on to a bigger point of this script, something that we really want to hammer home that people should remember is exactly that, remembering memories and stuff like that. The quote that we put in the script, I'll just say the whole thing. This teaches us two things. One, that in Kingdom Hearts, even when characters forget, memories are still there subconsciously. And two, that memories of one person can manifest in another given certain conditions. And it's, I guess, from my perspective, I just want to make sure that we put a big red exclamation point, a big star next to this, and a big, in all caps, remember this for the future, because memory is something that is incredibly important for concepts that are built upon for the rest of the series. So keep that in mind and just pay attention to stuff when it comes to memories like that and the concept of memory and remembering other people's memories and, you know, all of that fun stuff.
Yes. So we discussed it. We mentioned this a few times in the presentation. But I want to just, you know, reinforce the fact that the whole reason why we did this episode, which, you know, like Hannah said, is very straightforward. Like, you play the game, you've seen all these fucking scenes. Like, what else is there?
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that you, if you're a new fan listening, that you kind of understand that all of these different aspects of Kairi's heart interacting with Sora's heart, it teaches us a lot. And it gives us a lot of groundwork for hearts and for memories and for connections, and how it gives us a lot of building blocks that later build a lot of different structures.
Yeah.
Because things like this will happen again in the series in the future, but it won't be quite the same. And so as long as you can understand and keep up, you can kind of wrap your head around the similarities as well as the differences. So that's what we're trying to help you kind of start in that whole journey of understanding.
Yeah, we're building the foundation of a big old city that's going to be built upon, and other little districts are going to be built around it. And
oh my God, we're explaining the concept of math. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep. We're doing architecture in our minds right now. We are laying the foundation for later. And yeah, that whole foundation is called the concept of memory, which is going to be fun to look back at this episode later and see how far we've come eventually. But so with all that being said, I think my only like real question that came from this episode actually happened to be the same question as someone else in our email. And I'll do the Cliff Notes version of it now. And I think Mel's going to expand more on that email later. But with the whole concept of Kairi being able to show Sora her memories, and it seems like in a way that is deliberate, it made me wonder how awake and in like how much control she has whenever she is in Sora's heart, because it's not like she's completely dormant, obviously. So it's just like part of me is like, oh, that's kind of bogged down in semantics, whatever. It's a children's fantasy game. But it's just like, again, it's one of those things where this series is like everything is complete, like incredibly deliberate with everything that it does. So, like, what do you think, Mel? Is, like, how awake is Kairi? How much control does she have? If you have an answer to that.
I think I do. At least I can, talk about it, if not give a deliberate answer.
Yeah.
Because while you were talking about it and kind of describing it, it was kind of reminding me of the sunken place from Get Out.
Yeah.
Where you are, like, not in control of your body whatsoever, but you still have, like, basically, like, a television screen showing you everything that's going on outside. Because I'm thinking of two events. The first event I'm thinking of that we talked about in the presentation was when Sora is in the abandoned house that would end up being what Merlin renovates to, like, stay in. Mm-hmm. And she's like, this place reminds me of the secret place, right? So she, like, clearly is, like, looking around and, like, like, as the most you can do when you're in her situation. But also, which I didn't put this in the presentation, and I really should have. But I mean, like, I don't know what else I could have written about it because it's very, very fast. But when Riku is possessed by Ansem, and Ansem is about to, or Riku as Ansem is about to strike Sora, Kairi yells out from her heart, and she's like, Sora! And as a warning of, like, look out, like, dodge. And so you realize, or at least I realize, I can't speak for anybody else, but, like, not only is she, like, aware, but she's, like, really fucking present. Because, that takes, like, reaction time, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, in my head, when you learn about Kingdom Hearts and, like, the future buildings we're gonna make, the future architecture.
The city we're building, yep.
We're kind of used to Hearts acting in a certain way. But I think that since so many games have gone by now, we've kind of forgotten that in Kingdom Hearts, you can be very present and very aware. And I do think that that is really interesting.
Yeah.
So, let's read what Adrian wrote, because Adrian is the person who sent the email that you referenced earlier. So, Adrian wrote, as for your next topic, I was wondering, what is your take on how aware and awake Kairi was while inside of Sora's heart? When I first played the game, I was under the impression she was awake the whole time. However, if she was, I'd kind of expect her to have learned a little magic and skills like Sora did. Oh, bada bing, bada boom. She was clearly awake enough to appear as an apparition to Sora in certain memories, but it might have been a matter of her just being stirred awake at those moments in time. Another question I have is, how do you think this compares with the situation Riku had with Ansem when he fought Sora at the keyhole? I think bringing up Riku and Ansem, I think, is such a great idea, because Riku also seems to have been really aware, because, oh my god, I can't even remember if we've talked about this before. We've talked about Riku and Ansem on this podcast before, right? Yes, we have. Mm-hmm. Duh. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
You have to forgive me. I'm writing like 3 different Kingdom Hearts papers right now. One of them isn't even for the podcast. It's for my YouTube channel. So I am bouncing back and forth like a fucking bouncing ball. You gotta be patient with me. But anyway. So Riku, so we talked about how weird it was that when Ansem is possessing Riku, he still has this ability to change Riku's form and make it look like Ansem's body.
Yeah.
Which is just so weird. So we've talked about that, right? So still, we can heavily suspect that Riku's heart was still in his body that looks like Ansem, because at one point his heart kind of like materializes and like manifests a visual of his body in front of Ansem. And at this point, Riku's like trying to hold Ansem back because you can see Ansem kind of like struggle to move.
Yeah.
And so Riku's like, I'm not going to let you do this. You guys have to go. The Heartless are coming. I'm going to do all I can to hold Ansem back, but you got to run, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that situation, Riku also has to have been super aware and super cognizant. Is that the right word? Am I using it correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So I just think that using Riku and Ansem to compare that to Kairi and Sora is very interesting. And it also makes you wonder, the differences between Riku kind of manifesting his body, which seemed to be kind of more real, because it seems like Kairi and Donald and Goofy saw him. Mm-hmm. But when Kairi materializes, it seems to just be something for Sora himself.
Yeah.
So I don't really know why that is, but maybe just the overall conclusion to come to is that bodies can or hearts can kind of materialize or show themselves in different ways depending on the situation. But I think that's very interesting. But that's not the point of what Adrian asked. The point of what Adrian asked is, how awake was she? And I guess my answer is, she's probably very awake and very aware. And did she pick up the magic and the skills? No. But we all played the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1 when she tried to do that race with the two other boys and she was way behind. You can't blame her, okay? She has slip-on shoes. You gotta cut her some slack.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. No, my thought about the differences between the two of them, that makes me think of kind of the same thing I was kind of touching on about the princesses and the Keyblade of Heart. It comes back, I swear. The fact that Kairi and Sora, Kairi is taking refuge within Sora, so it's an act of love and safety and warmth. But with Riku and Ansem, it's more hostile, and Riku is acting in defiance, where Kairi doesn't really need to, obviously.
Yeah, you're right.
So, yeah, there's just some inherent differences there that kind of pop up to me.
And that in turn reminds me of a couple other emails and comments that we got. Mm-hmm. So the first one is another email by Dyxo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Dyxo. Thank you very much for your email.
Thank you for your email.
So they asked, how was Kairi able to just inject her heart into Sora anyway? In the cutscene where she does, girl looks like she's already at death's door. So was that was that just some function that a Princess of Heart has to safeguard the light? A side function of how bonds work cosmologically? I don't know if I've ever read that word aloud before in my whole life. Keyblade shenanigans, or is Sora just built different? So first of all, we can say that this is kind of explored more in a future Kingdom Hearts game, because it is. But also, coming back to what you were talking about, we also have to take into account that Sora and Kairi are childhood friends. They've grown up together, right?
Yeah.
And so I imagine, like you said, that she went into his heart for safety, for safekeeping, and she had no desire to, hold his body back, or maybe she wouldn't be able to do that because it's naturally Sora's body, and with Riku, it was naturally his body. It just looked like Ansem.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But I do think that that's probably why her heart went into Sora. I don't know if it's because of Keyblades. I mean, it might also have something to do with the fact that she's a Princess of Heart and they gravitate towards Keyblade people,
Yeah.
But I guess in my own interpretation, that happened because she saw him as a safe house.
Yeah.
But she did already look like she was at death's door. I don't know why she was zonked the fuck out. I really don't know.
That reminds me, right before we started recording, I went to go look back at the cutscene in Neverland where she's in the brig with Wendy. And for some reason in my head, I always imagined that she was her eyes were closed and that she looked like she was sleeping, but no. Her eyes are open, her mouth is open. It's creepy. It's just her
spooky.
Body. It's
fucking spooky. Did she have pupils? Do you remember that?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, that's weird. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I know for new Kingdom Hearts fans, they're going to be like, pupils. Like, why wouldn't you have pupils? But, like, you just got to flow with it.
Yeah.
So I said that Sora and Kairi having bonds reminded me of two questions. It reminded me of an email, but then it also reminded me of a YouTube question. And this YouTube question is by Crystal Key 2294. Hi, Crystal Key.
Hi.
I love when you can read a username and you're just like, oh, you love Kingdom Hearts. Oh, I just know it. You love Kingdom Hearts. You love sparkles. You love it all. I love it.
Incredible.
Okay. So they wrote, I do have one question for the next topic, and that is there any evidence to suggest that since Kairi was able to save Sora from darkness, could all of the other princesses do the same thing? So my first instinct is to say yes. And the reason why I think this is because after we beat Hollow Bastion and all the princesses are standing around, they talk about how they're doing their best to hold back the darkness until Sora is able to defeat Ansem forever. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me like in general, yes, the princesses of Heart are able to connect together and summon a keyhole that leads to darkness, but it also seems to me like they have the ability to dispel it and to repel it.
Yeah.
So I do think that maybe some other princess could have restored Sora, but I also think that because we don't ever see something like that happen in the future, it might also be just because Sora and Kairi are childhood friends and have a strong bond. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think that that's a big part of it.
Yeah, just from my, I'm a trained screenwriter, that is better from a writing perspective. Like, if it were some random princess that Sora had never met, it would not be as impactful.
Snow White, save me!
Yeah, literally.
Save me, white girl!
But that, completes the circle of Sora trying to save Kairi, and then she in turn saves him, You know
what? Absolutely. Yeah. When writing these papers and just focusing on Kingdom Hearts 1 alone, I have been really realizing how much that this game comes full circle in its own themes and in its own story.
Yeah.
And I really respect it for that. Yeah. I do.
Yeah. It's a well-written game, which is why I think a lot of people clung on to it. And now, it's multitudes more than what this first game, established. But it's such a great, again, I'm going to use the word foundation that they were able to build on.
I really feel like, to me, Kingdom Hearts, the series, has different stopping points or different exit routes where if you don't want to play this whole series, here's a good place to stop. You can stop after Kingdom Hearts 2, you might get closure. You can stop after this game, you might get closure. But honestly, I feel like if you just wanted to play the first game alone, you can do that, which I know is obvious, duh.
Yeah.
But I just feel like so many people so many Kingdom Hearts fans don't give people the credit of just playing the first game and being content and going on with their merry lives,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does end in a cliffhanger.
You're right. No, it does.
No, but you're right. It is a complete story in and of itself. And that's just kind of the trick of developers of if you want to see what happens next, green light our next game, that sort of
true
thing.
The whole season 1.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've reached the end of everything we wanted to talk about. Just kind of a pretty straightforward episode for today. I think the next episode is going to be a bit less straightforward because of a couple different reasons. So, Mel, what are we talking about next week?
Okay. The next episode we're going to talk about next week is Realms. So, listen. In my head, whenever I write about Kingdom Hearts and I have a mental plan of topics that I want to go into, I like to have kind of a story or a flow of topics that are kind of connected. Mm-hmm. But clearly, Kairi being in Sora's heart and the realms are not connected.
Yeah.
But listen, I had to take a few steps back in order to kind of follow another trail of connections in this first Kingdom Hearts game. So I did the best I could in coming up with a good order. We'll have to zoom out, but trust me, after the episode on Realms, we're zooming back in.
Yeah.
Okay?
Trust me. It's only uphill from here. I can't wait to do the rest of these episodes. I'm very intrigued with them.
Honestly, start after Realms. Once again, Realms has to set up the foundation. But then we're getting back into the real juicy, the juicy shit.
Yeah.
We really are.
What should people sending their emails to sheddingstarlight@gmail.com? What should they specifically be asking about?
That's very smart of you to ask me to tell you. So we're going to be talking about Ansem's Report 12. So you can either look that up, open up your Kingdom Hearts game, read it, whatever. But it basically just talks about the realm of light, the realm of darkness, the world in between, etc., etc. So it's kind of like World Order Part 2.
Yeah.
I would say.
World building Part 2.
World building.
Thanks,
whatever.
YouTube.
Thanks, YouTube. But we also talk about the end of the world. So if you're really confused about the end of the world, or, I'm planning on talking about, Traverse Town, or whatever fucking weird plain hill place they were in at the end of the game. You know what I'm talking about? When they're, running. And then they find Pluto.
Yes.
That area.
Yes.
We're gonna,
Yes, the Windows XP.
Yes! Yes!
Yes, the Windows XP desktop wallpaper. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, we're talking about the realm of light, the realm of darkness, and in between. So if you have any questions on that, yes, email us at sheddingstarlight@gmail.com.
Hell yeah. And if you like the episode, if you like the pod, be sure to rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you to everyone who's already done that already. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, go check out our YouTube channel. We have some very pretty visuals that you can look at while you listen to our beautiful voices. If you want to recommend the show to a friend, word of mouth is a very strong growth tool for podcasts. So try to get your friends into Kingdom Hearts like you always have your whole entire life, and tell them that you have an audio guide to help them out with all the weird concepts that are in it. And I think that's it. Mel, you got anything else?
I love you.
I love you too. Incredible. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the Starlight.